This is Nick Sakiewicz, Commissioner of the National Lacrosse League, and you're listening to Pro Lacrosse Talk.
On Schreiber. Sidearm whip, scores! Now in front, Fidel scores! Hands off for Rabel, switches hands and scores!
Kylie O'Miller showing off those shifty skills.
Right off the bat, there's Lyle Thompson!
Welcome to Pro Lacrosse Talk, the voice of Pro Lacrosse. I'm Hutton, he's Adam, and together we're bringing you interviews with your favorite players and coaches, as well as news from all 4 professional lacrosse leagues. Welcome everyone to another episode of Pro Lacrosse Talk. This is episode 80. Today we're going to be discussing the unfortunate news that the NLL has canceled the rest of its regular season games. There's still a chance that they will play a postseason, but we'll have some more details on that. We're going to have the NLL Commissioner Nick Sakiewicz join us a little bit later. He'll talk about what we could see out of a postseason format, how they're supporting the players during this time, as well as league employees as well. And we'll talk a little bit about, too, what content they've been putting out to kind of engage with fans in the meantime. But we appreciate him joining. You'll hear from him a little bit later. We're also going to talk about the MLL delaying its season, as well as what these 2 leagues' decisions mean for the PLL, which has not made a decision yet on whether they will continue with their planned start date or push the season back. But right now, it really seems like we will not get Pro Lacrosse as planned on May 30th. We'll wait and see, but right now it's not looking too good. But with that, let's dive into this NLL news, Adam. The league announced that they are canceling the remainder of the regular season games. They only had 3 weeks left in the season. They put out a statement that said, league officials are examining various postseason scenarios to return to play when all stakeholders and health officials deem that possible. The timing for the decision will be determined based on COVID-19 circumstances. So really not much there. Luckily, we had the commissioner come and join us. Before we throw it to him, kind of give me your initial reaction to this news.
Yeah, it was something that I just expected to happen at some point, whether it was the cancellation of just the regular season or the cancellation of the season in whole. You see all the other major professional sports leagues either transitioning to something like this potentially or looking to cancel. So it makes complete sense from a league perspective to hold out some hope. Hopefully we'll be able to have a playoffs. And with only 3 weeks left, that makes the most sense going forward. It's a shame. It's a tough situation, but everyone in the world's dealing with it right now. And I think the league did the right thing about canceling the rest of the regular season, but ultimately kind of leaving that glimmer of hope that we will have a playoffs.
I agree. I think it's the right move. We hope that there will be postseason. It gets really tricky, though, because you know how you have venues like Toronto that they're not allowing any mass events till the end of June. So it's going to be a tricky situation. We don't know if maybe they'll play at a neutral site. We'll get a little bit of details from our conversation with Nick Sakiewicz. So with that, let's throw it to him, and we'll discuss their plans for this postseason format if they are able to play. We are joined by Nick Sakiewicz, Commissioner of the National Lacrosse League. He's joining us off the unfortunate announcement that the NLL has canceled the remainder of its regular season. First off, Nick, we want to just thank you for coming on, especially during these difficult times. But to start, we just want to touch on a little bit, you said in your statement that you guys are canceling the remainder of the regular season, which means the final 3 weeks will not be played. But you didn't rule out the possibility of returning to play this season in the hopes of crowning a champion this year. So can you touch on a little bit of what's being discussed in terms of potential postseason formats?
Yeah, we have a plan, and that plan is ready to be executed on depending on when we get the all clear. And I would say to you that I'm not going to talk about specific details only because everything's on the table. So we're exploring full-on competition in arenas with fans. We're looking at neutral sites. We're looking at neutral sites with no fans. We're looking at every scenario. And I think with the situation as fluid as it is, we have to be nimble and flexible, and our league can do that. We can be nimble and flexible and be able to pivot. So everything's on the table. We have a plan. We're looking at that, and we're cautiously optimistic. We're seeing some signs of a light at the end of the tunnel here, and things are starting to get better in certain markets. So we're, like I said, cautiously optimistic we'll be able to crown a champion this year.
Yeah. Now this decision has made, along with the Pro Lacrosse Players Association, and they gave full support on this. Obviously, player safety is at the utmost importance right now, but another factor is how this affects players financially. Can you speak potentially on what is being done to support the players at this time?
Well, the players are receiving their full pay through the regular season as they normally would, so it has no effect. It has no effect on them. Obviously, those players that would play in a postseason tournament or a playoff format would also earn income.
Yeah, and have you spoken directly to any of the players yet? And if so, what was your reaction to this news?
Yeah, I've spoke to some. Some have been great in reaching out. Our players have been tremendous, staying engaged on social media through our numerous platforms, and they've been terrific. We speak constantly with the Players Association and have been in lockstep. Some teams have invited me onto team calls. I'm doing one tonight with the New England Black Wolves. I think that's a great practice.
Mm-hmm.
Teams, coaches, and GMs that are doing that are really innovative thinkers, and you got to double down on your communication during this time. People are stuck at home, and there's only so much bad news you can watch on the television, and people want to hear from whether it's the commissioner or a coach or a GM or I spent 2 hours with the Calgary Roughnecks fans on Saturday night. We had a watch party watching the final from last year with a bunch of fans and players, and we did a Zoom watch party with Calgary Roughnecks fans for 2 hours. It was a lot of fun.
You had a great background for that Zoom meeting that was posted on Instagram.
Did you like it?
No, that's great that you're staying so involved with the teams, and how have the teams kind of been supporting their employees at this time? It's probably very difficult with again, no games being played, and it's probably a really tough time for a lot of people. How's the league and the teams kind of been supporting their own?
Most of the teams have been great. Our ownership depth is tremendous. We have a great group of owners from A to Z, and most teams have kept intact. Some teams have furloughed staff and non-essential staff, but I think they're going to have to ramp up again here pretty quickly because we're 8 months away from launching our 35th season. So There's not a lot of time. At the league office, senior staff has taken salary cuts up to 30% salary reduction. We've cut about 12% of our fiscal budget between now and the end of June. We're going back at it. We're starting to really develop plans for our 35th year, which is just 8 months away.
What I really think you guys have been doing a great job, you mentioned the watch parties, is, engaging with fans and, your players during this time. You have some initiatives like bringing back a library of classic games for fans to watch, as well as, your In Transition segment with Devin Caney. Talk about these initiatives a little bit and how you've been able to engage with fans during this hiatus.
This is my fifth global crisis in my 27-year sports career, and everyone is different. But the one common theme in learning from the last, 9/11 and 2008, 2009 financial crisis is that you really you can't stick your head in the sand. You have to communicate with fans. You almost have to double down on your communication. So almost immediately when we made the announcement on March 12th, we huddled up our senior staff, our content team, Devin, our whole senior staff, and started to ideate some thoughts on how we stay in touch. And we launched NLL True Classics, which is 24/7. You can watch NLL games, the best of games over the last 3 seasons. As you said, we launched In Transition and In Transition Live, which is interviews with coaches and players and executive staffs at the team level. Brian Lemon, our VP of lacrosse, was on there the other day. I did my first interview this morning. So that's In Transition Live, and we're also in the process of launching an all talk, no action. Some deeper insights into the business of the league and the business of the team.
That's awesome.
What's going on during this time. So it's all designed to keep engaged with the fans. And it's been great that our relevance and our social metrics on social media and our communication with our fans has increased dramatically. We're up 3 times on Facebook. We're up 5 times on Instagram versus this time last year. So it's really great to see fans that care about the NLL. They want to be engaged. And the other thing, too, is many of our players are curating their own content, and coaches curating their own content and putting it out there on social. And whether it's a at-home workout program or like our coach up in Halifax, Mike Persey, has some dance videos with his daughters. That's really fun to watch. And I think that's one of our most popular pieces of content. He's posting dance videos with his daughters on Twitter and social media. So it's really good stuff.
Yeah, he's going to be TikTok famous pretty soon. We really appreciated that. And I think Mike Poulin too, with I don't think he's taken off his goalie gear either. I think he's staying ready. Well, awesome. It is. It really is. Well, Commissioner, this has been awesome. Unfortunately, it's on not some great terms, but we really appreciate your leadership during this time. So best of luck staying safe during this pandemic, and we look forward to watching the NLL when they do finally take the floor again.
Well, we appreciate you guys, and thanks for having me on. And there's lots of content to consume during this downtime when everybody's at home. And I wish you guys and all the fans, thank you. Thanks for supporting the NLL, and be safe and stay healthy.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast. Today I want to talk to you about our sponsor, Anchor. We've been using Anchor for the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast since the very start. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and better yet, it's free. They allow you to easily record and edit your podcast, and once it's published, they send it out to all the major networks such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. They also connect you with advertisers so you can start making money from your podcast right away. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast today, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code LACROSSE today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today. So you just heard our conversation with Commissioner Nick Sakiewicz. We appreciate him joining. We appreciate, his leadership during this time. It's, obviously a very difficult decision that need to be made. Both him and Peter Smits, the PLPA president. So we appreciate, their leadership, and it's unfortunate that they had to cancel the rest of the regular season. But like we said, we think it's the right move. But yeah, it's starting to get really tricky, I really don't know how long this pandemic is going to last, and really no one knows. And so that's what's why there's so much uncertainty. And they do have another season to prepare for, in the start of November. So you have to wonder, how long they'll delay, you have to wonder how long they'll wait to kind of make a decision on whether they can have a postseason and crown a champion, or kind of, just end the season altogether and move on to 2021. And, another league that already announced that they're changing their plans because of the COVID-19 pandemic is the MLL, who announced they have delayed their season. They do not have a new start date in mind, but they are working on some contingency plans. But they will not play on May 30th as originally planned. So, again, Adam, where are we kind of at with this disease, and will we get professional lacrosse this summer?
At this point, you just can hope. No one has an answer about when this is going to end, unfortunately. It is such a fluid situation that I think both the NLL and MLL have done the right thing. And it's not canceling everything altogether, but delaying and saying that they'll reassess once the situation deserves to be reassessed. So, it makes complete sense for the MLL to delay things. We talked to Sandy Brown when the decision was made to delay the season for Major League Lacrosse, and everything he said made complete sense when it came to expectations, and when it came to basically just delaying, coming up with multiple contingency plans. Because at this point, that's all the leagues can do. That's all we can do from a standpoint of being prepared to watch lacrosse. And that's how the world is kind of just handling this, take it day by day, week by week, and to see how things develop and work together to make sure we're doing the right things to keep everyone safe.
No, that's certainly all you can do. And we appreciate, both the NLL and MLL making those decisions. Another league that has not made a decision yet is the PLL. They did release a video saying that they are weighing all options, including starting on May 30th and playing the full season, delaying and still playing the full season, or playing an abridged version of the season. So we don't have really any more details on that, but we will, kind of talk about what that means for them. Before we move on from the MLL, though, we do have a big signing. I think one of the biggest signings the MLL has made in a long time is the signing of Callum Crawford. It was announced that he was picked up in the supplemental draft by the Bayhawks, and he officially signs on Wednesday. I think that's a huge signing for the MLL. Callum last played in the MLL in 2017. He only played a single game with the Blaze, and prior to that, he played some stints with the Cannons and Outlaws in 2016. Again, he hasn't played much pro field lacrosse. He recorded 14 points in just 5 total games in 2016. So he definitely can, produce when he is on the field, but really just hasn't played that much in the field game. Most of his success has come in the NLL, obviously. He led the NLL in goals with 33 and points with 76 before they had to suspend play due to COVID-19. So I think this is a big pickup for the Bayhawks and the MLL as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. He joins the likes of his current New England Black Wolves teammates, Colin Watkinson and Andrew Q, on this Bayhawks squad. So I'm curious if this is the start of something we talked earlier in the offseason about a lot of NLL players going potentially to the outdoor league. And, we saw another box guy in Sean Evans drafted by the Connecticut Hammerheads franchise. So this could be the start of seeing a lot more box guys head to the field game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think another point to note, this is the second time a player that originally declared for the PLL is now joining the MLL. The first being, with Dylan Malloy, who last season was announced on the Redwoods. And then shortly before the beginning of the season, the league announced that they had mutually decided to release him of his contract because he couldn't make it work with the training camp schedule as well as some of the regular season games. So he ended up signing with the New York Lizards in the MLL and returning there. And kind of a similar situation with Callum Crawford. He was announced on the Chrome's roster last season. He didn't suit up once for the Chrome. And now he was able to sign with the Bayhawks. So it sounds like, it's probably a similar situation where they released him of his contract. We were under the assumption that most of these guys were on 2-year deals. We don't know. Maybe they have a clause in there that if they don't suit up for a year, they are released of their contract. We don't know those details, but it is interesting. He is the second player to declare to play in the PLL and now join the MLL. And we'll probably see a lot more of those next season when these 2-year deals are up. But as of right now, those are the only guys that look like they're, essentially not really making the jump from the PLL to the MLL since, neither of them played, but in a way, that is what has happened. So we're excited to see Callum play. But, I mentioned the PLL and what they're kind of doing to tackle this situation. A big question right now is the college draft. The MLL has already said that they don't have a plan for a college draft right now. They're kind of working on that. They wanted to give the seniors some time to kind of reflect on their decision because, the NCAA has extended a 5th year of eligibility to schools to give to their players if they choose so. So that's kind of created a ripple effect where we don't really know, other than a handful of guys, who's going to actually go pro this summer if we do have a season. So the MLL has kind of postponed their draft. They haven't really announced any details on that, but the PLL is kind of moving full steam ahead with their college draft on April 21st. So right now, let's kind of just discuss where we're at with that. We have 2 guys that have become eligible for the draft. One, Grant Ament, has actually declared that he intends to play in the PLL. He was the first to kind of announce that. Obviously, he would have been returning for a 6th year if he decided to go back to Penn State. He had already taken a redshirt 5th year. So the decision for him was pretty easy. You guys can listen to that conversation on our YouTube. We did Instagram Live with him. And then the other one is Michael Krause, who announced he will not take his 5th year of eligibility and return to UVA. So the assumption is he will also go pro. He hasn't officially announced that his intentions to play pro, but he will be eligible for this draft come April 21st. Other than that, there's not many players that we know officially are going to be eligible for this draft. We know Mac O'Keefe has announced he'll return to Penn State, so that takes him off the board. But Adam, what are your kind of thoughts for guys like Jeff Teat, Michael Sowers, and T.D. Ireland who play for Ivy League schools? Because the Ivy League announced that they will not allow players to play a fifth year. That's been their policy, for a long time now. And really the only way you can become an NCAA student athlete for a fifth year is kind of do what, Rob Pennell did and disenroll and then re-enroll for the spring season. But that's very, very tricky with, class schedules. I mean, you have to have the class that you need to graduate kind of has to be available for that. We could see some of these guys do that, but another option is for them to graduate from their Ivy League school and then, transfer to another school for a grad program and play their extra year of eligibility there. But, it gets tricky. What are your kind of thoughts on these three guys I mentioned in Teat, Sowers, and Ireland?
It's a tough situation for those. Obviously, they're in a good situation when it comes to getting a degree from an Ivy League school. We've already heard from a guy like Michael Sowers say if he is going to play college lacrosse again, it's going to be in a Princeton uniform. So I'm leaning to believe that he's most likely going to end up in the PLL draft. I think that the writing's on the wall when it comes to that. Unless they figure out some other loophole in the system for him to be able to go back to Princeton. And he seems to be a guy of his word, and I expect him to not put on another college jersey if it's not the orange and black. So TD Ireland, we'll see. I think similar statements have been said by him that if he's going to play, it's going to be for Yale as well. So it'll be interesting to see not only what these student athletes do going forward, but how the PLL really handles this. The draft's coming up pretty quickly, and we still don't have a concrete list of guys who could potentially be drafted. Are we going to see another situation like we did last year where the Archers have the first pick and take a guy like Pat Spencer and he doesn't play that first year? What league has ever had 2 first overall picks not play in their rookie seasons because of something like this? It'd be unprecedented, I think. But the league has to, just like we talked about with the NLL and MLL, they have to be kind of on their toes and malleable with the situation. And we already were expecting a handful of guys like Doc Sakin and JT Giles Harris to potentially be drafted this year, but then go play college football in that fifth year. So there's a lot of moving pieces that I don't think will be answered in the next couple of days or by the time potentially the draft happens.
Yeah, no, I think the interesting thing you brought up was Pat Spencer, because it could be very well that situation. Obviously he was still a student athlete when he was drafted, going to Northwestern to play college basketball. So that might be the situation you see with a lot of those guys. They might just get drafted anyway. Teams hold on to their player rights and they go from there. And, another one, Jeff Teat, he's being linked to the number 1 pick in the NLL draft. Obviously, that draft doesn't take place till later in the summer, but, it's another situation. If he has the ability to be drafted by a pro field team as well as, maybe go number 1 overall in the NLL, he might just be content with taking his Ivy League degree and moving on. But we really can't answer these questions, until these players come forward. But another aspect of the draft I do want to touch on is where all these teams pick. So we may not know who's really eligible to be drafted, but we do now know where all these teams will pick after, a series of trades last summer as well as this off season. We also will have an article up on our website, with a little bit more detail on how these teams acquired their picks, because there's been a lot of confusion on who's drafting where. A lot of people, forget some of these trades went down. So with that, I'll read the order of the PLL 2020 draft. So in round 1, the Archers have the first pick after winning the draft bracket. So they will pick number 1 overall, followed by the Atlas. And then the Water Dogs will actually draft 3rd, followed by the Chrome, Chaos, Redwoods, and Whip Snakes. So that goes in the order of the draft bracket as well as where teams finished in the playoffs. Round 2 is based on the standings, with the Water Dogs picking first since they are an expansion team. So the Water Dogs will pick number 1, Chrome will pick number 2, Atlas will pick number 3, Archers will pick 4, Chaos will pick 5, and then Chaos will pick 6 as well. They had back-to-back picks because they acquired that pick from a trade with the Redwoods that sent Miles Jones to the Redwoods and gave them Sergio Salcido. And then the Whip Snakes will pick 7th in round 2. Round 3 gets a little bit more interesting. Again, the Water Dogs will pick first in round 3, followed by the Chrome. The Chrome then have another pick at 3 that they acquired from the Atlas in their trade of Romar Dennis. And then the Archers will pick 4, Chaos will pick 5th, and Atlas will pick 6th That is the pick that the Chrome originally had that they acquired from the Redwoods in the West Berg trade. So the Atlas are getting a pick that the Chrome had already acquired from the Redwoods, and they will pick 6th, followed by the Whipsnakes picking 7th in round 3. Then round 4 is really wild because there's been so many trades. The Water Dogs again pick number 1, Chrome pick number 2, Atlas pick number 3, and the Redwoods will pick 4th in round 4. They acquired that pick again via the trade with the Chrome for West Berg, but it was originally an Archers pick that they got in the trade from Brendan Fowler. Then at 5, the Chaos will pick, and at 6, the Whipsnakes will pick with a pick they had acquired from the Redwoods, and then the Redwoods will pick last in round 4 with a pick that they acquired from the Archers that was originally the Whipsnakes. So a lot of, moving parts to this draft, especially in rounds 3 and 4, but that is the order that these teams will pick. Again, you can go to our website where we have an article that kind of breaks it all down. It kind of highlights all the trades that happened last season leading up to this. So that kind of gives you some clarity on where each of the teams will pick. With that wraps up our podcast. Make sure you guys follow us on social media, especially Twitter and Instagram. We'll be posting a lot of breaking news, as far as like the NLL canceling its season, MLL delaying its season, and whether we hear from anything from the PLL in the coming weeks, we'll share that with you guys as well. We're getting pretty close to that May 30th start time, and training camp is approaching, and still no word on what the PLL is deciding to do other than that video saying they're weighing all options. So be on the lookout for some news from them probably in the next couple days. But with that wraps up our podcast. We appreciate Nick Sakiewicz coming on and kind of bringing some light to the situation with the NLL. And we appreciate his leadership during this time. We hope you all are staying safe during this time. Definitely stay at home. Do all you can to, stop the spread of the disease. And we hope you guys all stay healthy. And with that, though, that wraps up another episode. And we hope you tune in next time to Pro Lacrosse Talk.
Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code LACROSSE today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today.